Hi, Tom Fury on a very, very shaky Zero News. It's the first time I've been on my feet in a week, and it feels pretty weird. I turned my phone on this morning, first time in days. Yeah, I just haven't been feeling great at all. So, in trying to process all these information that I'm used to processing all the time, it's funny when you have a little bit of time away. My God, it was brain crushing. Not feeling that great. So, it's coming at you. Anyway, it's still not over, but I'm the first time I've been on my feet in a week. First time I've had a walk in a week. Anybody who knows me knows that I walk at least once every day. So, yeah. So I apologise if I look like I'm dying, but yeah. So what have I got to add to things? I suppose not a lot at the moment. Feeling like this. I'm kind of tempted to hide away in my little ball, simply because we've had a change from autumn to winter, and it was a horrible change because it went from 17 degrees to about 5, and then what was it, -1 in just a few days. For someone like me, that's not good. But I suppose the Zelensky thing is the thing that needs pulling apart from my point of view. A lot of people cheering about Zelensky walking away from the peace deal that Trump's laid down for him, and there'll be people sticking up for the Zelensky. There are already people cheering this on, and you have to question the sincerity and the reason why anybody would want to cheer something like this on, because this is always going to be a war of attrition for the Russians, from the Russians' point of view, because they knew they were going to get Ukraine were going to get weapons from the outside. But shortening this video down, at the end of the day, especially when people start withdrawing their support for Ukraine, Russia's always going to be able to outlast. So when Zelensky had a good position where he was strategically doing well, and I kept saying to you, he is trying to expand his borders rather than consolidate the ones he's got, keep his own territory safe. He was thinking about annexing territory, and I said it was a mistake, because he's trying to get more than they're losing. And okay, there might have been some strategy behind that when it comes to the negotiating table, but what I was trying to get at the time was they were talking about peace deals and stuff at the time, and he didn't want nothing to do with it. And I think that's because he thought that he could get in an even stronger position. Now he knows the same thing as I know, same thing as Trump knows about certain world leaders. It's the reason why he treated China the way he did. It's the reason why he seems to tiptoe around Putin. It's because both Russia and China have a culture that we find hard to understand, in as much as losing face to the Chinese and the Russians is just not acceptable under any circumstances. You cannot lose face. And I'll give you an example of how deep into the culture that goes. So if you're in China and you go and ask a policeman where X, Y, and Z is, because you've never been there before, that policeman probably doesn't know himself, especially if he's in a big city or whatever. So, or if your Chinese isn't clear. So rather than say he doesn't know or doesn't know what you're talking about, he will always point you in a direction, whether it's the right one or not. He will put you in a direction rather than no direction, because he doesn't want to be seen as losing face, as to not know the answer to the question. I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people, but this is actually the way it is. That goes all the way up into government, the same mentality, which is why what we said. People have said to me, "Oh, Putin's running rings around Trump." I'm like, all right. And they said, "Well, look at the way he treats Zelensky and look at the way he treats Putin." It's like, yeah, because he understands something about Putin, and that's Putin to get out of the war. Like Putin, this war has been a disaster for Putin. There's no two ways about it. It's been a disaster. He needs a way out. If he doesn't get a way out, he's dead. He dies. So he needs a way out. And it's a bit like the bully in the playground. If you hurt them and then offer them a way out. They'll take it, as long as they can save a bit of face. And it's the same sort of thing. Whereas, so it was always going to be the case, always. From the moment, and this is just an unfortunate reality the world has to deal with, from the moment the first shot was fired, regardless of who shot it, there was always going to be lost ground on the Ukrainian side. That's why Putin started the war. And that is an unfortunate fact. It's not fair, it's not right, something should be done. Yes, it should be. But the very fact of it is, that was going to happen from day zero. That was going to happen from day zero. Ukraine was always going to lose ground. And the more of a war they made of it, more ground they'll probably lose. Especially if they... So the best thing would have been when they were actually doing all right, and they were gaining territory and whatever else, that would have been the time when they were first started to sit down at the peace table, rather than being so bullish about it. And that's when they should have sat down at the peace table, because they had leverage in their negotiating positions. We'll give you this back, you give us that back. And then it looks like, and then both sides can come away claiming a win when both sides are really lost, right? But that would give Putin the chance to save face and save his life. And Zelensky could say, look, we've got the same Ukraine we had. Okay. He didn't do that though, did he? He decided to gamble, go for broke, and go for the idea that they'll keep getting help from the outside. He'll keep getting this. Europe, instrumental in destroying peace chances, because they keep making promises they can't live up to. European armies that we haven't got built yet. And so Zelensky walks away disgusted from a peace deal. Now he may have just walked away from a peace deal, whatever reasons they've given publicly. Maybe because he doesn't want to be the guy that sold out Ukraine. Maybe because he looks at the lost territory, or maybe that he truly thinks that Europe or someone's going to come and save him. But what he's actually probably done, because Putin needs a way out. This is what he, living right next door to Putin, should understand. Putin needs a way out. This ends either in Putin's annihilation and Ukraine's, or it ends in Putin staying where he is and Ukraine losing some of itself. But it doesn't end in Zelensky claiming victory and Europe standing right behind him as buddies. Now, the only way that happens is in a world war, so which they could make happen. But the way he's going, what's going to happen is his country. And by the way, this wouldn't be happening if it hadn't been for NATO and also Russia both interfering in Ukrainian politics in the first place. But he didn't want to leverage his position when he had a good position. He didn't want to leverage his strength when he had some. He didn't want to leverage himself when he had the backing of the international community. Now people are actually celebrating his defiance in walking away from the peace talks, from the peace deal. If he wants to make amendments to it or whatever, that's one thing. Walking away from it completely, well, you may have just destroyed yourself. Because if Trump gives up, by the way, everyone, and this is what I think this comes down the problem with. One, Zelensky is not a leader. He's been put in that position against his will. But at the same time, you think even someone like that would understand it's better to have some country left and strong than to be completely taken over by Russia, especially if that's what you don't want. I think he gambled. I think he was gambling the first time. I think he's gambling again. I don't think he's letting listen. I think he's gambling again. And he's gambling the existence of an entire country. Anybody think it doesn't happen? Then have any of you heard of a country called Prussia? Yeah, obviously you historians have, but most other people haven't. It existed. There was no Germany. There was no Germany. Germany's a new country. We act like it's been there forever. No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. It's been under multiple. It's been under Saxony. It's been under Germany. I mean, obviously it's different sizes and that. But my point being is, the idea that Germany's been there forever is just a construct from a modern age. The way we look backwards, we call it Germania when we think back to Rome and stuff like that. But in actual fact, although it was called those things, it wasn't Germany. There was no Germany back then. And so the idea that Ukraine is indefinite is crazy. The idea that as a country it can't get wiped off the map, that's insane. And if it does, you will have Europe will have aided and abetted that. Starmer will have aided and abetted that. And one can't help but think, as well as whatever shit Zelensky's been filled full of. And by the way, I know in the past I've taken what I've appeared to take Putin's side, when actually all I've done is I've just rationalised in his favour because nobody else will. Play devil's advocate. I don't see him as a good guy in this. He fired the first shot after all. What I'm saying is, I know how his culture works. And I know how there's only one way in which he steps out of this, and that is as a like I say, a saving face move. It's the only way he can get out of it. Like I say, otherwise he's dead, or he'll kill himself anyway. But you've got to remember, it's an oligarchy of power over there. It's not anything else. It hasn't changed just because they wear suits. So, you know, if you want to make someone the bad guy, I suppose they are the bad guys in this because they started a war. But this is always going to end something like the same way, unless everybody was prepared to throw their full weight into Ukraine. But Ukraine is just a proxy. And here's the thing, Ukraine is a proxy for everybody else's war. That's the only part of it where I feel kind of sorry for them, is that they are a proxy for between Europe and Russia and America. Same old shit. And that's the part that you know, I can sympathise with quite a lot. But walking away from a peace deal on the table, even if you lose land, it's better than being extinct. You live to fight another day. You live to fight another day. And not in that, you live to then make relations with the Europeans that you want so badly, with the Americans you want so badly. You wanted them all on your side. Well, now you've got a chance to get them on your side. And with a country that's been injured, they're more likely to want to help you win that back the right way. But what he's doing at the moment as well is he's going to alienate the only few people in the world with the power to help him should push come to shove, should push come to genocide. The only people in the world capable of helping Zelensky are the ones he's alienating. It's worth remembering that as well. I think Zelensky's someone who got pushed into a situation where he's way over his head. But at the same time, he's not thinking survival, or at least he's not thinking of his country's survival. Or someone from Europe has a whisper into his ear. I don't know which it is. But everybody's celebrating this. Everybody's celebrating him walking away in defiance. Defiance against what? Is it that you're celebrating that he's walking away from defiance against Putin, offering peace, regardless of how that peace takes form? Or is it that you're more excited over the idea of Trump failing? Because I'll tell you what, that's what I really see behind all this. When Trump pissed off all the Chinese countries, everyone went, look, see, he's doing it. And I said, well, he did this last time, give him a chance. When he started trying to do a peace deal, everybody said, Putin's running rings around him, he's going to make a fool of Trump. Maybe, but give him a chance. And we had the same thing with North Korea and that the last time. I don't think Trump did a bad thing on those times. And someone said to me the other day, well, what if he fails? Well, then he fails. At least he tried. I said, who else has tried? I said, isn't it better that he tried and failed? You know you've got a president that actually did something. And they went, yeah, fair enough. And it's like, yeah, fair enough. Then you go to plan B and C and D. But if someone's actually genuinely trying to get peace, it's amazing to me. It's like one of the very few presidents in American history that's gone out to try and get peace. He's done it in a bullish way because he knows how to deal with people. Gets it more often than not, and then gets hated for it. And it's like with the Chinese, I knew what he was doing, hiking them up to 50%. There was no way he was going to settle on the 50%. That was always we're going to slap you around the face, and now you're going to need to save face. And the Chinese were going to come to some agreement with him, which would cause him to lower the tariffs. And they would go away feeling like they saved face. That was obviously his intention. So I mean, you don't need to know much about world culture to understand that's what he was doing. But people come down real hard on him. And I just can't help but feel like the whole Zelensky, he's walking away from Trump's peace deal thing. I can't help that it's got nothing to do with Ukraine. Got nothing to do with Zelensky. It's got nothing to do with Russia. I've got a feeling it's got everything to do with Trump and people just not wanting to see him succeed. It's quite sick when you think about that. And I don't think I'm too far off base. Because I've been listening to people sniping at every single thing they could think of while he's been trying to create peace that they can. And the sniper shots have not gone unnoticed by me. And when you put them all together, there's quite a lot of hatred towards anything that he does. Peaceful, not, it's like, oh my God, so if he tried to save a bunch of orphans, you guys would attempt to sabotage that just to make him look bad. You wouldn't care about the orphans. That's where we're at. So I can't help but wonder if this is more of what's going on now, is people laughing at Trump, which is incredulous, whilst not noticing that they're about to lose one of the world's countries. And then there's no point saying imagine 100 times at Manchester Airport when that happens, because nobody will care. And nobody will care. And here's the other thing as well. If you think the world will be in mourning for the Ukraine once it's gone, think again. I don't say that from a ruthless, horrible point of view. I'm just being realistic. It's outside of our news cycles, other than when it's convenient. So yeah, it'll be a big story, but it'll be as big as we want it to be. And then it'll be a go-away story, and then the country will just carry on without, the world will just carry on without Ukraine. That's a realistic possibility. Very realistic. The world just carries on, nobody blinks an eye. Yeah, we talk about court cases and we talk about things that are going to happen in the future, threats, sanctions, but ultimately nothing will get done. And I'm lucky enough to be neutral in all this, not as in I don't give a fuck, really, in terms of their business between each other, because it's such a messy history they have anyway. It's hard to know. But yeah, I just question anybody that is using this as an opportunity to try and mock Trump. It's like, well, then what is your position on Ukraine? What is your position on Russia? What's your position on... Do you even have a position on those things? Or is your only position any position that where you can laugh at Trump? If it is, you need to look at yourself. Like, it's seriously not a very smart position to be in. Because it's like, especially if you're American, because he's like the leader of your country, and if he fucks up really badly, you'll go into recession or you'll go to war, you get people die. How would you like some of that? And that's exactly what happened. So why would you, it's alright saying he's not my leader. Yeah, he is your leader. And if he fucks up, he takes you down with him. Why would you want that? It's crazy. Each to their own. Anyway, I'm done. I'm feeling, Tom Fury signing out.